YouTube, it's Faye, and for today's video I'm going to show you how to remove and replace the drive belts on a Toyota 4Runner or another Toyota with the 5VZ engine. So here goes. And here are the belts that I will be using to do this job. The alternator belt, part number 4K1045. It's hard to read that backwards in my phone screen, but I managed. And then for the power steering, 4K1070. And then for the AC, 4K870. So I just got these online, but you can find them at your local auto parts store if you like. Whatever works best, but I'll try to link them in the description below. Now, I already showed how to do this with my timing belt video. However, I already had a lot of stuff taken out of the way, so I figured a more comprehensive look over at how you do this job with everything in place would be good and probably appreciated by y'all. Now, if you're gonna be doing a timing belt, I highly recommend that you remove your radiator first, and I have a video on how to do that, so go ahead and check that out. And the link is in the description below. And then the next step I would say would actually be removing the fan before you remove the drive belts. And that isn't 100% necessary, but what I find is that the little bit of added resistance that the belts give make it easier to undo those nuts, like take the fan off. So definitely do that. And I'm also gonna start with a brand new set of gloves, and I already disconnected my battery terminals. I hate my battery cable ends. I can't wait to replace them. They're freaking terrible. But one thing at a time, Faye. One thing at a time. So I'm starting with a brand new set of gloves because my drive belts are already new. Yeah, that's right. These are the old ones and the new ones are on the car. But I realized that I wanted to make this into a separate tutorial, and then I also had to replace this tensioner. The tensioner on my alternator was seized. We're talking like really seized. So I had to buy another one, and there's the part number, the Dorman part number. So I'm gonna stop talking about it now, and I'm gonna do it now. All right, here goes on to the tutorial. Okay, so here's our drive belt setup. Removing the fan is a helpful thing to do if you have a situation where your alternator is stuck like mine was, or that tensioner was seized, because the belt actually wasn't able to be adjusted at all. So once I got the fan off, all of these little pulleys here, well, they're all these two pulleys are able to tilt, and that's how I was able to get the belt off in the first place. But if you can see down below on the harmonic balancer, it'd be helpful if I wasn't getting my hand in the way. But as you can see down here on the harmonic balancer, we have the 3 belts, and I'm going to start with the belt that is furthest on the outside, which is our power steering belt. Now you can see that I dripped a little bit of coolant right here, and I removed my upper radiator hose. This is not something that you have to do. The only reason I did it was to make filming easier. Okay, so the chicken is right underneath us right now, and she's making some weird noises, so...
Hey, chicken. Hey, what you doing?
Where's your head? Oh, there it is. Okay. It's not me, you guys, I swear. It's the chicken if you hear any weird purring noises. But anyways, here's our power steering pump, obviously. And we're gonna start by loosening this drive belt first and removing it. So I'm gonna start by loosening this upper mounting bolt for the power steering pump. And then underneath, you can see right here, this is the securing nut, and I'm gonna be loosening that as well. And those are both 14 millimeters. So I've just got my basic 14 millimeter wrench.
Yes, chicken.
I should say you can also reach a socket through the hole in the power steering pump pulley here. If already removed your fan and your fan shroud, you have a lot more room. Once I've got this loosened just a little bit, that'll be good. Then I'll move down to my lower one. Not backing that nut off all the way, but just loosening it enough to the point where I feel like I could move it with my fingers if I needed to. So I think right about there is good. So on the back of that securing bolt, you can see that there is that long adjustment screw. And here's actually what it looks like outside of the car. I got this off of my spare motor. So you can see that this is holding the lower portion of the power steering pump in place. So as I let this out and allow the bolt to come out, I'm allowing that power steering pump to tilt back in. So this is a 14 millimeter as well. And to save a little bit of time, I'm gonna be using my ratcheting wrench. Okay, so here's my ratcheting 14, and there's the adjusting bolt that I'm going to be undoing. And you can see that I undid the cam sensor connector here and just took it off of its little clip. That's just so that I could get a better camera view, but that's not something that you have to do. Now, if you think this bolt is hard to get to, now just imagine trying to do it when you've got your phone and your light in your face. And this should not be super tight, so once you get it to a certain point, you can kind of fit your little hand back in there and undo the rest by hand. And then from here, see how loose that is? So I can just push that power steering pump down and then pop the drive belt over the power steering pulley. And now you're like, oh my gosh, it's caught. No, you can just put this behind the fan and then slip it up and through. The tensioner for the AC is really easy to get to from underneath. You can see that I've removed the skid plate from underneath my truck, and you can see the 14 millimeter securing nut here that I'm going to loosen first. And I've got my 14 millimeter socket on a long extension. That's supposed to move up. AC belt. And then lastly, this one. Stuck. So once again, got my 14 socket. I'm gonna loosen this upper bolt. Now I've got my 12 millimeter ratcheting wrench, and I'm just gonna use this to loosen the stabilizing nut. And then the adjusting bolt lives on the other side of the alternator, right here. And you can see that it's actually sitting in a slot. So if I'm able to get my alternator moved over just a little bit, I can pop that bolt up and out of the slot. That's the plan. Then I'm gonna quickly remove the 10 millimeter bolt that's holding my oil dipstick tube into place. Slide it over to the side. And then I have my reasonably sized pry bar here, kind of reasonably. And the reason why I needed to move this is because there's a place where I can pry against the side of the engine block in here, right through here. And that's really the only safe place to pry. You can't pry obviously against the plastic cover. You can't pry against this aluminum thermostat outlet housing here. And I just don't like to pry against any studs or bolts if I don't have to. Using my left hand to pry down on the alternator while I use my right hand to pop that screw out. Now with my 12 millimeter, I'm just gonna undo stabilizing nut the rest of the way. It's super loose right now. And that's what was seized. Now I can push the alternator down and out of my way and pop. And just pop this belt off. Okay, so this is probably gonna be pretty straightforward, just me putting the belts back on. However, I'll just take a video of it anyways and sort of fast forward through everything so you can see, and then I'll talk about the adjustment and how to know how tight things should be. So, whoop. Moth. It's late at night, different day. But yeah, I'll just show you quickly how things go back together. At 1 a.m. on a Saturday morning. That's right. I know how to have a good time. Ooh, I actually almost forgot that over here on my alternator, I get to install my new tensioner. Doesn't feel like a lot of threads, actually. So I just went through my Toyota bolt bin real quick.
and just found a bolt that was a little bit longer. This one, obviously, because I just was not satisfied with how few threads went through, which I'm sure you noticed.
Okay, that feels better. All right, so now I'll put my alternator belt on. All right, and here we go. I'm gonna put my belts on. I'm gonna leave my light down there because it works out really good. And my hands are filthy, and so to protect my new belts, I'm gonna put my gloves back on. Here's my alternator belt. Should also say I just kind of tighten them by feel nowadays. However, if you're uncertain how tight to make the belts and it stresses you out, you can always purchase a belt tension gauge.
Oh, hi, Daisy. What do you want? What do you want?
Oh, hey, look! It's all back together. Oh, you don't care because that's another video. But hey, look, this guy. I replaced that terrible pulley. You can see this mess. There's all this corrosion built up on the stud. So I was having a hard time moving this back and forth.
Come on. Come on.
Oh dear.
Jesus.
I'll just soak it in some penetrating lube. Okay, so paying attention to the way that the washer, well, that's pretty straightforward. Set that aside. This should come right off. This one's actually in much better shape than the one on the truck. Oops. Right, I'm gonna get this cleaned up and put this on my truck instead. There we go, it's all clean. And you can see that I took a little wire brush and cleaned all the rust as well. Second one in is my AC, and I'm gonna do that from below. This is a difficult camera angle. Now I've just got this lower bolt here. 14 millimeter. 14 millimeter ratcheting wrench. And the power steering. And just put it back behind the fan, rotate the fan around, and it comes out the other side, around the crank, around the fan. Push my power steering pump down, sneak it around, and now getting to that adjusting bolt over here. All right, that's all we got. And my 14 millimeter ratcheting wrench. Great, now that that's tight, I'll be able to tighten the securing nut down here. And then this upper mounting bolt. Oh, at some point I put that back on. But that's okay, that wasn't part of the tutorial, so you don't have to worry about doing that. Now, obviously it's really important, you don't want to make these belts too tight or too loose. And if you're unsure, I would always err on the side of making them a little bit too loose, because if they're too loose, the worst thing that's gonna happen is they're gonna make some noise. I mean, I guess in like a worst case scenario, they could fly off, but if you're like doing your best to adjust them and they're too loose, like the worst thing that would happen is they slip a little and they make a little bit of noise. Gosh. If the belts are too tight, you might not know the pull of the belt onto the accessory pulleys. That can actually cause damage to the bearings inside of those accessories over time. And that's gonna happen gradually and you're not really gonna know. So I'd always err on the side of making them a little bit too loose if you're unsure whether you're making them too tight or too loose. Yeah, all right. Anyways, that's how you take the 5VZ drive belts off and put new ones back on, and also replace a tensioner. And now it's like 1:30 in the morning. I've lost track of time. So I'm gonna sign off and finish up getting my truck ready for work tomorrow. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you found it helpful, and I will see you in my next video. All right, bye.
You're so cute.